Good afternoon. We are out here on Highway 12. I was going to do a little walk about the Lighthouse Loop, I call it, and end up back down there on that side of the harbor so you can get a final view of the harbor today. But we're right here at Lawton Lane and Highway 12. Still not too many cars parked up here. That'll probably increase as the time comes closer, but it does luckily look like the hurricane, luckily for us I should say, not for our southern neighbors, looks like the storm is tracking farther westward, so hopefully we won't have any effects of it, or very few. So I thought we'd walk down Lighthouse Road and around. You can see a few of the buildings. Oh, there's Eduardo! Ah! He is taking a much needed break. He's been in that food truck all the time, with long lines of people waiting for his yummy food. So sorry about the wind. Here's the Island Inn. I'm still hoping to get some work done on the Island Inn. A really important piece of Ocracoke history that we want to maintain. And there's Dallie's house. She's back down on piers. You can see back there her house was raised up really high. And they've got her set back down, which is nice. Lighthouse Villas. And the figs are starting to ripen. I've got to check a couple fig trees out. I forgot about that. Hey Elise, hey BJ. Hi. Everybody's got their yards all cleaned up. A couple rentals here. And then I don't know if you saw the article, Gary Davis has been playing taps at sunset. So if you're on Lighthouse Road or anywhere nearby, depending on the direction of the wind, when you come back to the island, you can listen for him playing at sunset. Got a pretty little bench over there, pretty purple bench with flowers. Looks like some trees went down in there. Okay. Tucked back in there. I think I said this already. It was the boathouse. It used to be used by the U.S. Life Saving Service. Go down there. It's a private home now. You can barely see it back in there. But the little house back there, Cedar Shake, was part of the U.S. Life Saving Service. And then this house was where I lived from the time I was 5 until my mom sold the house about 10 years ago. It's a rental house now. Lovely folks own it, and they're keeping it up really nice. Very big house, lots of room and a nice backyard, but I spent many hours sitting on that porch. And I'm going to apologize again, it's very, very bright out, and if I don't answer questions, I'll have to answer them when I get back, because I just can't see them all the time in the sunlight. David Sensini's house. That house got moved down here. It used to sit right across the street from the Lighthouse. It got moved here in the 70s. And then this little house here got moved, gosh, maybe 5 years ago or so. I can't remember when they moved that house. That was the little green one that sat at the end of Lighthouse Road. Beautiful day. It's very, very hot, sticky, but it's a nice little breeze blowing right now. And this house I grew up calling Miss Ruby's house. That's where she was the organist for the Methodist Church. She lived in that house, beautiful big house. It got about 18 inches of water in it in Dorian. Pan over here, I know some people rent Morning Star through the Ocracoke Harbor Inn. They always do a nice job of keeping their spaces up. Some pretty old houses. This one was one of my favorites, Miss Isabel's house. Classic Ocracoke look with a big front yard. Used to be all sand. And she has the best Christmas decorations. Every Christmas this house is beautiful. And then this is Rachel's house. I know some of y'all saw it sitting out with a little tiny porch and rocking chairs on the porch, but she's expanding her porch there. Still a long ways to go. Looks like we've lost a lot of trees here recently. I don't know when they cut those down. Kathy and David's house. Little path here cuts to the back, the creek road. Some historic houses there. Taxi. If you need to get somewhere, call Javier. Maida Frida's house, it's all back up and fixed now. Looks lovely. Usually you'll see her sitting out on the front porch watching the people pass by. Go the loop road around the reverse direction. Oh, sorry, wasn't paying attention. And Sabra's house, if anybody's rented Sabra's, it's a super cute little house. Love the color, the front porch. We're not going to go down Widgeon Woods, but it's got a lot of neat rental houses too. I did that on one of the walks. We'll go back there at some point again. And the morning glories, it's getting too hot for them. They're starting to shut up. But I love those. Very pretty. We got a house raised up back there, all ready to go. And of course where Edward Carson and Stella's house was. It's always still sad to see where the empty spots are. You get used to it, I suppose, but little loopy. That house that was there, they were going to restore, but it was in such bad shape they had to rebuild it, but they kept the footprint and then added that deck, outside deck, so you can, I think you can see the lighthouse from there. And this little street, Mary Jane Lane, it's got a lovely old historic house on it down there. I think it's a rental too. This house looks like they might be living in it now. Everybody's been trimming trees and trying to clean up. The problem with trimming them is sometimes you worry about them blowing around, but I think we'll be okay for this storm. There's another rental there. Pretty big tree next to it. Looks like here we're gonna have a house being built before too long. It was an empty lot, lost a lot of trees, you can see. Those are mostly lost from Dorian. So if you're driving the street, you'd come the opposite direction, but I like walking it this way because then I can see the cars coming. They got chickens back there too. We've had some escapee chickens. They've learned they can fly over the coop, which normally they're right near the coop, but they completely disappeared the other day. And there's Jen's house. She's still working on it. She's very sad. She has it as Airbnb, but the mid-June finish date has spread into mid-August, hopefully. It'll get done by then. So she's been working hard to get that ready. And then Springers Point, and do the little public service announcement, no parking here, but you can sit and wait and let somebody pick you up as long as you don't block traffic. And the little trail going back in there closed due to the storm, but normally it's a lovely little trail to walk down to Springers Point to see Sam's grave and where Blackbeard was killed. Another fig tree here. Everybody's been picking. Trudy Austin has been making fig preserves for us this year, and I think we're going to be getting some half pints back in again from Debbie Wells. That's the hope, at least. And everybody makes them slightly differently. Rental teaches treasure chest. And here, there was a little house here that got torn down. Looks like they're going to rebuild. Hey, and then the cove is up on stilts already, but obviously they got to put the porch back on. And Margaritaville, cute little 2-bedroom house there with access to the sound. It's so quiet. Normally this time of day would be bustling with bikes going by and golf carts. And you can see out here. So I don't know if you remember back down Lighthouse Road, I said the little greenhouse used to sit where this rental 117 was. But these are two neat houses, three neat houses right here on the water that you can rent and have access to the sound. And you can see Portsmouth Island on a clear day. Probably not in this video. I can see it, but it's hazy out there. Here we have where Maxine's house was. Maxine had a great laugh, great smile, and her granddaughter Jenny and Mandy lived there. And Jenny got her mom's smile and her grandma's smile. She had the best of both. And there were a number of houses here. Pamlico and Gifts was back there. And then Moose's house and trailer were here. They're, of course, gone now. And you can hear the cicadas in the background, I'm betting. They've been pretty loud. And this was an old house that Preservation Society bought with the help of funds from the Beveridge estate. Geraldine Beveridge left a bequest to OPS to help save structures. And this house was bought, saved, covenants put on it, and the folks that bought it historically restored it. And it's now a lovely rental house. And then if you are driving to Springer's Point, here at the Assembly of God Church, they ask for parking donations if there's not a service or something going on. Sometimes they let people park there to walk down to Springer's Point. But they do request a donation to help with the parking lot upkeep maintenance. Here's Miss Della's house. She makes a fabulous fig cake. She had a Walkaround gift. She was Elizabeth Parsons' sister. And she's not living in her house right now. I'm not sure exactly where she's living. But her house was flooded. Her son's trying to get it back up and running again. And one day I'll walk down here, maybe the next couple days, and walk out to the Soundfront Inn, and you can see the land from there. And this was a little house here, and of course you can see the lighthouse from here now. And we're back around to Martha Jane. I think I called it Mary Jane Lane earlier, but Martha Jane Lane. It's where the little historic house to rent is, just down the way there. We'll pop over there real quick. They've done a really nice job of historically renovating it. It's a nice quiet street, close to the lighthouse, close to everything in town. It's just a sweet little house. They had it raised up before Dorian. Didn't get in there, it got on the back porch, but it didn't get inside. It got to the underpinning, to the insulation. It's a lovely, lovely space. And of course you can still see some debris in places from where we're still fixing up things from Dorian. You always see storms and disasters and right after the fact, and you see the devastation, and then you kind of stop hearing about it and assume that everything's put back together pretty quickly. And it's interesting what firsthand experience teaches you is that those recoveries aren't as fast as it would seem from the outside looking in. And I was talking about David Sensini's house earlier. It used to sit right here and was picked up and moved just down the street in the 1970s. So we'll pause here just for a minute so you can see the lighthouse and the keeper's quarters, old trees. Oops. Listen to the birds and the cicadas going. But it's very hot, so we're going to keep moving, keep the breeze going. Sometimes you can see big nutria in this area, the big kind of muskratty looking rodents that live in that swamp. Another nice house, great view of the lighthouse from there. Plenty of room to park underneath. And here used to be the rental house, Nana and Papa's. There's grave markers up there just beyond, or just before the oleander, just beyond the fence. There used to be wooden markers, but they rotted away and fell over. I believe the family still has them, but they're not at the gravesite anymore. Hey! Was Jimmy and Linda at Jimmy's Garage. Always give fine service. They do take the weekends off, but the go-to place when you have car issues around here. Good evening, afternoon, I mean. Hey. Geneva's house, looking pretty. I'm not sure who's living in there now. Used to have a big fence around here. Dad's Retreat has wonderful smelling jasmine here on the trellis. It is lovely when it's blooming. Taqueria 504 Suazo's closed for now, but we're glad they recovered from the storm. And that's the Mary Frances house. That was on the Historic Homes Tour a number of years ago at Christmas. The OPS sponsors a Historic Homes Tour. Can't even see where the camera is right now. I hope you can see it. And then, of course, this is where our house was. I always liked seeing this house. Years ago it had a life, was it not the life cart? Life car, I think it was called. To help rescue shipwrecks in front of it. But the National Park Service has it now, and I think it's going to be going to the graveyard of the Atlantic Museum. And there's Eduardo again. Cottages here, the castle villas. Castle looks like they've got their new landscaping in there. Last time I came by, they had just cut out all their plants, their shrubs. Harbor Inn, they've got the office raised, got their new ramp and steps going up. Great views of the harbor from those upstairs rooms, second story rooms too. Actually, most of the first story rooms as well. And they have this lovely deck and dock out here so you can get wonderful breeze and a good view. And this years ago was where, some of you might remember, where the lakeside cottage courts were. It's kind of a U-shaped concrete pad parking area with little cottages on either side, and those cottages got taken down years ago and moved around to various parts of the island. Some of you have probably stayed at Spencer's Landing. Also beautiful views and a deck. And wagon wheel cottages, they had to move a couple of those. You can see they're still up on blocks. I think only one got fixed up enough to rent this year. And the Pirate's Quay, access to a dock that I've heard just got newly finished. It's the one that used to look kind of like a roller coaster, I think. After Dorian, that is. This nice little dock with a little covered area out there. So we're almost done. My phone just said it was low battery, so it's pretty good timing to finish that. You can see how incredibly quiet it is. I heard the last ferry whistle blow about 1:30 to the mainland. The Hatteras ferry is going to run until about 10 or 10:30 tomorrow morning. And then that's it until the storm passes by, regardless of how close it gets or how far away it tracks. This is already starting to grow back up. I don't know if y'all remember when, right after the storm, it was just mud and tree stumps. Tree stumps are probably still under there. But the vegetation takes back over. I'm coming back around to ride the wind. And the slushy stand, showed you yesterday, she's got all the bikes piled up, everything lashed to the porch in case the tide comes up. And Bob yesterday was tying his little tiki hut here so that it wouldn't float too far away if the tide came in. He said it went down the street last time. So we're going to end up right here. And I'll give you a view of the treasure chest in the harbor. I don't know if you can see the lighthouse from here. I think we're just around the corner from the lighthouse. So you can see the Coast Guard station there. So there you go, and if the weather stays nice, we'll try to do another walkabout tomorrow, different area. It all depends on what the weather's doing. So have a lovely day, and thanks for watching again, and I'll answer questions when I get back home. I'll look at the questions and see if I can answer, and I apologize if I didn't show you something. If there was a question, we'll try to do it some other time if I miss something.